Imagine yourself alone in the world, scavenging for supplies while being hunted by terrifying monsters. Your every move closely observed by demons lurking in the shadows, a brief sense of security being your last mistake. This is a world of NOCT, a top-down survival horror game developed by C3SK. NOCT creates an alternate world, one engulfed in perpetual darkness. An ancient evil, older than text, has descended upon the population, consuming it and filling the survivors with despair. Those left from the purge roam a shattered civilization, desperately scouring the waste for supplies while managing to keep their sanity. So with the introduction out of the way, I can loosen up. Let's talk about NOCT's gameplay. NOCT presents survival horror in a very interesting fashion, because rather than victimizing you and forcing you to run away from the monster or hide from the monster, you're given the option of fighting it, and you're also given the option of choosing what to do with the monster. You can choose to observe it, you can choose to leave it alone, or you can just choose to kill it. All these options work, but what makes it special is that the monsters don't impede gameplay, yet at the same time, they're an essential part of it. I can go from warehouse to warehouse scavenging for supplies and not encounter a monster. Is this exactly a negative thing? No. The way NOCT's monsters work, or at least the effect that they create when they try to be spooky, is that they're ominous. They're always out there, yet never in sight. They stalk you. It's a very spooky effect. The only surefire ways to detect a monster are either to see one, or when your character emits an "uh-oh" text warning. The visuals of NOCT don't allow you to see what your character wouldn't be able to see. While we view our character from the top-down thermal imaging system, he can't see around corners, he can't see inside buildings, and he can't see even a room over. What you can see is what your character could see. And although you can see the rest of the map, that's really there for navigation. I've had monsters come around corners I thought were clear. I've had them ambush me when I was hiding in a house. It's very scary to be denied knowledge. To be forcefully ignorant in a video game is kind of a challenge actually, and I accept that. Where most games are holding your hands nowadays and showing you what to do and giving you the easy option, NOCT has no difficulty. It's a persistent denial of knowledge. You're always going to be screwed over by NOCT. Just when you think you're safe is when you've screwed up the most. And there's no way to tell yourself I'll be ever vigilant, because at the same time you need supplies. You can't spend hours a day sweeping through the urban ruins of NOCT. You need to make your decisions concisely and accurately. You need to decide what you're going to do from the moment you spawn in and get it done. NOCT is also flawed in that way because it lacks a certain goal. I can't say like I would say in any other sandbox game, for example Minecraft. Let's say I joined a Minecraft server and I was walking around and I said, you know what, I'm gonna make my house full of diamonds and furniture out of gold. I have a goal. NOCT doesn't have one right now, and that might either be the fact it's still in alpha or the fact that maybe C3SK just wants to make this a truly sandbox game. What I'd like to see is, including with the multiplayer element, perhaps some sort of creationism, allowing yourself to make a fortress, a fortification, in this otherwise desolate world. Make a fort with your friends online. It's great replay value. While there are few necessities to playing NOCT, there are some indications that there's advancements in the future. In the bottom right corner of the screen, it gives you the three options of food, water, and health, represented by F, W, and H, with OK next to them. I haven't had the chance to test it, but I do believe that if you go long enough without picking up rationing of food, water, or health, your character will eventually die. Now, while there seems to be no repercussion of death as you respawn right away, this is probably just a feature of the alpha to keep players interested. The visuals of the game, at least graphically, are very well done. I know that pixel art has taken a recent curve in video gaming, where it's now becoming criticized and it's just being blamed on lazy devs, but NOCT's art style actually kind of represents it pretty well. The idea is that we view our character through a thermal imaging system somewhere up in space. Of course they wouldn't have ultra high-res images of the player. I'm sure that we could probably see a mod or a spin-off that turns them into that, but that wouldn't happen for a while. it's a very good way to do something on a budget, and I applaud C3SK for doing this. With the graphics, I also have to mention the soundtrack. This is one of the few soundtracks, along with several other games I can mention later, that just go well with the game. It fits perfectly. It doesn't have any flaws, it's not too exciting, at the same time it's not stale. It fits the game, it picks up when it needs to, and otherwise it keeps you in this equilibrium point between being scared shitless and roaming the wastes. The weapons and gameplay mechanics for NOCT, so far as movement and weapons, is very well done. It has a very tight control system, and I don't feel like I've ever died because the game's controls let me. I feel like I've died because of incompetence. The weapons in the game fire very nicely. It makes a small banging sound, almost like the banging of a drum whenever you fire a weapon. It's an interesting take on weapons, and I don't think that having an actual firearm sound for the gun would be any better. I'm interested to see how explosives and melee weapons will work. The only flaw with the weapon system I have right now is the fact that in the bottom left corner of the screen, indicated by weapon, round count, and magazine reserve, doesn't give you concrete or even reliable information. It's divided into 3 categories: okay, low, and out. A weapon with a low magazine is hard to tell. It doesn't give me any concrete information. Do I have 2 rounds left in the chamber? 5 rounds left in the chamber? I'd like to know, because when a half-ton monster is charging at me through a hallway, I like some security in knowing that I only have 2 rounds left in the magazine, because I'd like to save the last one for myself. One of the last concerns I have for NOCT is the world. Now, the actual world itself, or at least the one that we have been released to, the alpha, is very bland outside of the forest. It gets repetitive to stumble upon the same village over and over and over. Navigation in the game is done through a series of diamonds rotating near the edge of the screen, functioning much like points on a compass that tell you which direction to head, but don't tell you how far or if you've been there before. Now, I can understand that there's some basic land navigation skills that you'd need to learn for NOCT, but at the same time, some sort of mapping system, or perhaps even a larger world, would do NOCT much justice. Again, it's an alpha. He's not going to release the entire world to us because we'd tire ourselves out on it, and it's also probably buggy still. Overall, I'm looking forward to NOCT's further expansion. I know the developer will do a good job communicating with us, because what we've seen so far is that he's a very informative developer. He'll tell us what he's doing, and he'll even take advice. And that's good. A community that's in touch with the developer is a great community. And I hope NOCT turns out to be a great game. If you think I was biased during the review, or if you noticed any mistakes, please point them out to me. I'd like to know what I did wrong.